just going to give a brief introduction here to our organization for people that don't know us. The topic here is ethical impact of AI in society. We kind of fit into that category, but essentially for us here, it's about cybersecurity awareness training. There's a lot of organizations that are looking for cybersecurity insurance in their organization. In order to comply to all the criteria, they need to put in place cybersecurity awareness training for their employees to demonstrate to the insurer that they are compliant, that they're doing all best effort to prevent any failure in their organization. So when you start looking at these list of questions that you answer in a cybersecurity insurance provider, those list of questions keep getting bigger and bigger. So those programs, cybersecurity awareness training, allows you to reduce your risk, therefore reduce your exposure and reduce your premium on insurance. And obviously reducing overall your risk of getting hacked. Just gonna scroll over one slide, please, Theo. You're the controller, right? Thank you. So I'm Sylvain Jacob. I'm the VP of Sales here at Microserve. We are a value-added reseller in business for 35 years. We drive about $220 million in revenue, and we're 560 employees in BC and Alberta. So that's just a quick summary of our company, and we're an IT reseller generalist. And I'm supported today by Alex from Tetra. Fortra, thank you. Fortra, which used to be named Terranova. I know them by Terranova from the past. And online we've got the CISO of Fortra, thank you. Terranova, it's called Terranova. And Theo is going to do most of the conversation with us this afternoon. This is just a quick snapshot of what Microserve does. As part of that $220 million, we sell products. Thank you. We from IT procurement all the way to managed services in organization. And really what we see in terms of the security platform or the security offering essentially spills over all of the things that we do inside the organization. Whether we do end user compute in an organization, security is part of that. Whether we do audiovisual, we need to have security in mind. Infrastructure requirements, security is part of the entire practice inside Microserve. And one of our partner in that security stack is Terranova. I'll get it at one point. Next slide, please. So with that, I'd like to introduce Theo, that's going to talk about the Terranova platform, and we're going to spend about 40 minutes on that topic, and then we're going to have room for some questions. Over to you, Theo.
All right, thank you, Sylvain. So let's get started. So hello, everybody. My name is Theo Zafirakos, and I wear two hats at Terranova Security. First, I'm the CISO and responsible for the information security program, but I also lead our professional services practice where we help organizations implement effective security awareness programs that modify the entire culture of the organization. So first, we're going to start to talk how AI impacts cybersecurity and eventually cybersecurity awareness for the employees. AI is another tool, and it depends who uses it. They could use it for good, or they could use it for evil, right? They could use it for bad. So cyber criminals, obviously, always ahead of the game when it comes to technology. They could use AI to create new malware. They could ask AI to create new software for them, taking advantage of zero-day vulnerabilities, so that bypass detection. Almost anybody could do that, increasing the number of potential threats that we have to face. Also, with AI, they will be able to create new sophisticated attacks, and also on the phishing side, creating scenarios that mimic trusted entities, and they could do this much easier, making them a lot more difficult to detect because there won't be any errors. It will look almost identical to the real thing. And as a result, also using AI, they will be able to collect and analyze data much quicker. As you could imagine, the volumes of attacks that they do, or when it comes to exfiltration of gigs and gigs of data, well, it could take humans a long time to analyze and find data of value. So with AI, once they collect a certain amount of data, they will run through the AI and find valuable information they could action on, and benefit quickly. Also, I am certain a lot of you have seen deep fakes, whereas like a video or a voice that maybe looks like one person, or says things that that person never said. So that could be used to conduct more sophisticated social engineering attacks, either by email, generating phone calls, on social media, through videos, because the users will see, or the individuals will see, a trusted person talking to them, but the message is going to be that of the attacker. All right, and intrusions and creating new code and new tools also will be another tool that the cyber criminals will be able to leverage by using AI to generate those tools for them, and leverage those much easier to conduct sophisticated attacks. But there is also benefits. We could leverage AI in cybersecurity to have faster threat detection, having tools that adapt. There's a machine learning involved where they get updated automatically. They learn from the events, and they're able to help organizations quarantine cyber threats and prevent attacks from further propagating within the network. Also could allow for more effective responses. We see a lot of security tools have either false negatives or or positive positive negatives, so, and vice versa. So how do we create tools that are more accurate when they decide to block something, or when they decide to allow something through, to have the confidence that they're making the right decision? So the more information they have, the better we'll be able to do that, and having more accurate actions taken. And there's always a question, do we rely on the human first and the machine later, or do we rely on the machine first and the human later? It could vary, right? In some cases, we may have the machines taking the first decision, the first action, and then that decision could be validated by a human being, just to make sure that everything is done appropriately, or vice versa. The machine could be the fallback for the human. If the human makes a mistake, makes a wrong decision, then in the back end, the machine could act as a backup for the human, and either provide recommendations or correct the actions. So, there's no right answer who comes first, the human or the machine. It will vary based on the scenario and the situation. But I believe there's room for both, whereas one of them acts as the primary decision maker, and the other one could be the validator and maybe catcher of different events. Also, AI could provide greater scalability, ability to grow, improve, act much faster over time. Cybersecurity departments tend to be lean, having a small team, and having a small team that is responsible for many tasks. So having AI at your disposal could help you automate and create those, create efficiencies within the department to be able to tackle more events, more requests, more activities. And also cost reduction could help reduce the cost by helping us focus our efforts where we need to. By learning, by using data and to learn, well, we could see where do we need to focus our efforts, our activities, our priorities. What are the topics? What are the human behaviors that we need to address first in order to secure our environment? So the downsides of there is no downsides if we have an over reliance on AI for our cybersecurity program. So the algorithms that are used to make decisions about cybersecurity threats may not always be transparent, and they may leave you vulnerable to a potential bias or manipulation. So if the attacker knows how the AI works, they may choose to manipulate it to acting a certain way. And in some cases, AI can be difficult to interpret and making it more difficult to understand why those decision was made. Do we have a way to analyze the AI logic that led the AI make that decision? So having those traces may become difficult, and this lack of understanding can lead either to poor decisions, poor machine learning, where the AI is not learning properly and eventually making the wrong decisions, and also could have severe implications for the cybersecurity of the organizations. So AI-based cybersecurity solutions may not always identify the threat or potential breach. That's why we may have to have, at least at the beginning, the human backup to prevent the potential risks from going unnoticed or causing further damage. Also, there may be some bias or discrimination in decision making. So AI systems, biased decision making could arise from different sources. So maybe data sets that contain information or algorithms that maybe were not correct at the beginning, or maybe it was based on a certain data that happened in a certain event, not taking into consideration future events. Right? Even in life, right? A lot of times we make decisions on base what had happened in the past, right? But it doesn't mean that that is going to happen in the future. So we have to be careful also with the decision making. And if it's not managed properly, these biases can lead into maybe discriminatory decisions against either certain groups, certain users, or individuals based on the past, based on how they've acted in the past, right? Even as human beings, we tend to remember the events that had the most impact in our lives, tend to remember events that had the most negative impact, even though they're the 1% chance, right? And typically we will be scared with the 1% chance instead of thinking of the 99%. And also there's the potential for the misuse or abuse of AI. Again, as we said, criminals will start leveraging this technology for their benefit. AI algorithms will be used to either search through data, detect different patterns, get valuable information, infer data. If I have 2 points of data that alone mean nothing, and it may take a human way too long to infer additional information, well, a machine could do that maybe much quicker, and providing certain elements of data that are not related could help them make some logic out of it and provide valuable information. All right. From a benefit perspective for organizations, we could see several areas of potential benefits. Chatbots, and a lot of organizations use them for client facing. You may go to a website where you're looking for information. You see the little, sometimes annoying pop-up that come up that offering you help, assistance, how can we help you? Obviously, there's not a human being right there sitting 7/24 answering to every visitor of a website. It's a chatbot, based on your conversation, it will respond back to you. Well, we could use the same technology internally. Why don't we provide the same solutions internally for our employees when they have questions, when they're looking for information, when they're looking to do something and want to find a way of doing it securely? Why not leverage chatbots internally to provide additional information? Machine learning could help improve the different AIs that we have in place. So by collecting data from employees' awareness levels, course participations, behaviors in the real world, responses to quizzes or phishing events. And also the technology at the perimeter. So anything that like intrusion prevention systems, intrusion detection systems, user behavior analytics, all of those could leverage AI and machine learning to improve themselves and adapt for future use. So all this comes down to how can we use AI and to benefit our organization and improve our security culture of our employees. In many cases, we don't have AI embedded in every process. So our current AI is manual. We collect data in a manual process. But what if in the future we collect this data in an automated way where we keep updating it and maintaining it? Today, if you want to do a survey, well, you have to call several thousand people one by one to get the data. And this is what we did in this case. But what if you could do it through AI, accumulating the data, and the data is always relevant at the time you look at it, as opposed to, well, this data was relevant at the time we did the survey. Well, is it relevant today? So the survey was completed in the summertime, where we wanted to understand employees' perception of cybersecurity, their understanding of the role in cybersecurity within the organization, and the perception of the threat. So this was done across 5 countries around the world, with about 4,000 total participants, ages 18 to 75. The condition for participating is you had to be employed in an organization. And we conducted this survey because security leaders are looking for data. They want to understand what cybersecurity concerns users have, and comes from an employee perspective. You know, when we're talking about cybersecurity, at this point, we're talking about the people aspect, you know, the human element of cybersecurity. Well, how do our employees feel about cybersecurity? Identify, you know, what are the reasons for awareness gaps? You know, not everybody knows everything. Well, where do we start? Why don't users know the minimum best practices? And to this day, people still submit their credentials on phishing websites that have not been secured, right? What leads them to do that? And also, by having this data, will position the organization to better build and grow the cybersecurity aware culture. You know, where everybody takes ownership and responsibility for protecting the data of themselves, their colleagues, and their organization. So through the survey, that we noticed that 3 out of 4 participants had either been targeted or know someone who has been targeted by a cyber attack. The other 24% are probably not aware that it has happened to them, but chances are everybody has. And this means that we can no longer deny the fact that this threat is out there. Nobody could say, I'm not a target, I'm not affected. It's almost anywhere. It's almost everywhere. So, so with that being said, you know, we don't have to use the fear factor anymore. The cyber criminals already do it for us. But as organizations, we have to do more. Only a third of employees rate their organization as good when it comes to cybersecurity, giving them an 8 or more out of 10. Right? And a lot of times this happens because the cybersecurity departments do not advertise what they do not market what they do to the rest of their organization. So users, you know, have no clue. But in some cases, there's also room for improvement. And even less than that, think their colleagues are good, you know, when it comes to cybersecurity. But don't forget that what you think of others, well, they think the same of you, right? So nobody, you know, nobody is excluded from this. So people don't believe that their organization or their colleagues apply cybersecurity best practices. And less than half see that their organizations having mandatory security awareness programs in place. And if the program is not mandatory, we have observed that the participation tends to be lower because, you know, if it's not mandatory, it's not important. I have better things to do. And a third of them say that there's no program in place within my organization. Well, where are users expected to learn this, right? Government is behind in educating its citizens. Well, they do have the Get Cyber Safe website, but every time I've done a presentation and I've asked the audience, well, are you aware of Get Cyber Safe? Nobody raises their hand. So I hope, you know, people in the room are aware of Get Cyber Safe and leveraging it either within the organization or within their personal environment. So we have to do more. Also at home, at schools, well, that's where cybersecurity culture is supposed to start. So when employees start in the workforce, well, they have some kind of background on what cybersecurity means and its importance. And a lot of individuals think that cybersecurity, well, it's the IT's responsibility. It's a technical problem. I have nothing to do about it. Well, that's wrong. Everybody has a role to play because at the end of the day, we are all users of technology. We're all users of the internet, and we have access to digital assets. So we do have a responsibility and a role to play. You know, yes, the perimeter devices will block 95% of spam and phishing email, but what happens to the other maybe 1 or 2% that gets through, right, and reaches your eyes? Do you know what to do? Do you know how to act at a moment of distraction or when you're doing something else? If not, then what do we have in the background potentially? An AI that even if you do make the wrong choice, well, the AI will catch it and maybe give you an alert and inform you that you've potentially taken an action. So users have a role to play. AI and technology has a role to play in creating effective defensive mechanisms. Almost half of Canadian employees said that they haven't participated in any kind of security awareness training, and again, only a third out of those participants, out of Canadian participants, said that the organization has some kind of training in place. We see the Europeans tend to have a lot more because they've implemented a lot more stringent rules around privacy, like the GDPR. So they were forced to adopt security training much faster than some other countries or regions, but in Canada we're lagging behind. And again, because there hasn't been real external pressure on why we need to do this. All right, so what does it take to build this cybersecurity aware culture, right? We have to understand what the best practices, the users have to understand what the best practices are for protecting information. And it has to happen at all levels of the organization, right? From senior management to support the program, to leaders and supervisors to support the employees and employees participating. And we need to do this because whether the attacks are coming the traditional way or whether the attacks coming that have been generated through AI, users need to be informed of all these evolving mechanisms and attacks in order to protect themselves. How many end users know of deep fakes, right? And if you see somebody say something, well, it could have been faked, right? They may not be aware. So we have to keep this program ongoing in order to inform the employees of the upcoming threats, including the potential threats that may arise through AI. And again, it's the future because the technology is going to change, the way we work it's going to change, the threats are going to become more complex. Was there a comment or we're good?
No, more sophisticated, more complex.
Yeah. And down the road. So users, and a lot of times we hear that users are the weakest link. We like to call them the most neglected link, where we don't pay as much attention or don't put as much focus for supporting. Implementing a security awareness program, we talked about it earlier. The drivers who will force us or who will mandate us to put a program in place, whether it's security or awareness, we have to think about the external drivers, things that are outside pushing in, the things that we do not have control over, and there's various elements there that may force us to do this, but there's also the internal drivers, things that we have control over, our information and classification policies, our acceptable use policies, our programs that we put in place, and they need to remain operational, right? As we've noticed that cybersecurity attacks could interfere with business operations, customer services. Well, these are all internal reasons why we're implementing a security program. And depending on the industry you're operating on or the type of data you're handling, there may be also specific industry requirements that are forcing you to implement a security awareness program. Any organization that that claims that they have an industry standard security program, well, they must include an awareness program as well in that. All right. So having a security aware culture will help employees and motivate employees to do the right thing, ask the right questions, and complete awareness activities. We won't have to chase them and remind them of the importance and why you need to do this. And the awareness activities get absorbed, get retained. There's a difference between knowing what to do and doing it when the time comes, right? So, through the tools that we'll be putting in place, or even eventually through AI, we'll see, well, this person took the training. Did they apply what they learned in their day-to-day? If not, how do we adjust the training? So using AI could go from theory to practice, back to training, and adjust our programs as required. All right. So having a security-aware culture will help organizations, and you need to have more than just phishing simulations. We need to have an awareness program. We need to have communications. We have to have data analytics. Again, manual or through AI, if you have those functionalities available, that will help you generate the effective change that you're looking for. And to do this, organizations will need to have executive support, which is a crucial first step in implementing any kind of program, because obviously it requires the resources, time, money, people to implement. But any kind of program like this is an ongoing activity that requires participation and resources to handle the programs for its lifespan. And then once you've done that, you want to be able to track and observe that now we are having a shift in a cybersecurity aware culture. People are motivated to do the right thing. They're motivated to ask questions when they don't know what to do, and also raise their hand if they've done something wrong, because they're not afraid of the consequences, and that could help minimize the potential damage. Even better, users will share what they know, either with those around them, their family, or their friends. Obviously, you're not going to start talking about cybersecurity over a glass of wine at a dinner party with your friends, but when you see the opportunity arise, don't hesitate to say something. I was at my doctor's office the other day, and the doctor left the room and left the computer on with my medical files showing, and access to all the other medical files. And the doctor was gone for 15 minutes. If I wanted to be malicious, I could have done a lot of harm. But instead, I give my doctor some advice on to lock their computer screen when they leave the room. Not just protection of my data, but everybody else's. And training could help do that. There's different programs that you could put in place to help. An ambassador program to help employees and promote employee awareness and activities, having content that is adapted, fun, interactive, easy to consume, short, and based on the user's profile, based on what we've learned through his actions. High quality content could help them also be a bit more engaged through virtual games, escape rooms, cyber challenges, and games. And those type of activities could help increase participation and make a topic that it tends to be a little bit, maybe too complicated for others, or maybe too boring or not interesting for others, to make it a little bit more interesting and more challenging and more pleasurable to follow. The ambassador programs become two-way channels. Again, human in nature, but it could be AI in nature, right? You could have somebody, an interface between the users and the cybersecurity team that acts as a two-way communication, learning from both ends and also communicating to both ends. And personalized campaigns, again, through the analysis either manually or through AI of different data, we could help users by tailoring the programs to their specific behaviors. If we see what they're doing in the internet, if we could tell, if they're surfing sites that may be higher at risk, or if they're responding to emails, or if they're doing any other actions like sharing personal information unencrypted via email, then we could adjust accordingly and promote this positive change and growth within the organization.
Hey, Theo, we got about 6 minutes left.
All right, I'll be done in 2.
All right, perfect. Start off with a good question if you're all ready.
Yeah, we'll leave some room for questions. So the reason why we're doing this is we want to reduce the risk and build long-term resilience for no matter what the future holds, no matter what threats the users will be facing, whether coming through manual attackers or artificial intelligence. And we could leverage our own processes to do this, or we could build AI into the different tools that we have to better promote our programs and facilitate the process. We do have available the survey that provides some additional data. So this is the data that I shared earlier about what users perceive as their responsibility for data protection at work. Their responsibility, do they feel that they have a role to play are they interested in participating in learning? So this report is available for you to download. You could safely scan the QR code or simply visit our website at terranovasecurity.com to get your report.
Wow.
Thank you.
That was a timely time check. So Alex and I had the Microserve booth upstairs. If you want to come and see us and talk a little bit more about this, but if there are any questions, we have TO available for another 5 minutes before we adjourn. Thank you, guys. See you at the Microserve booth upstairs, or we call it the Microserve Spa. Thanks, TO. Thanks to Microserve marketing team online. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.